So once again, we're here at this default position here with the seated position where we have all of this space. It's always my best policy not to put body weight on them if I don't have to, right? That's gonna infringe on that breathing process. But even if I need to, I need that elevated threat. And what's that elevated threat for me to start putting body weight on him? And that's is that I can no longer control him. Two parts of the body that we have to watch on our opponent in order for them to viably fight us is that more importantly is one, they have to move their hips, and two, their head. So if that person starts fighting, that's going to be my elevated threat when I see these two parts of the bodies go up to start putting more weight onto them. So if that bad guy starts, right now I have none of the weight, but if that bad guy starts lifting his hips up as I sit back on the hips here, and this is where he gets some of the weight. All right, my hand here is just monitoring to the head here, not automatically going into it, but if that head comes up, stay where you are. I'm going back to verbal command. All right, if I'm really struggling here and this person's really, I'm about ready to break my position, I'm going to give them all of the weight. If my foot here is going to slide out, and where the bottom of my foot goes to the wall, and I hook in, but I still have this pinch in here on my partner's body here, and now I feel all of the weight. Right now, Dan's got a lot of weight on him, but he can talk freely. Can you talk, Dan?
Yeah, no problem.
He's got no problem in there because my weight are back on my opponent's hips. But it changes things that if I start putting my weight up here to the hips and I start going to the upper body, now this is where I start imposing a disruption in his breathing process. So I would really have to have a big elevated threat to want to motor that. But the majority of the things that we can control here is just by putting our weight back here on our partner's hips. Okay. Now moving to the recovery position is obviously when the handcuff is I just lift up my hips there. That's when my partner's going to handcuff. I have to get them up. How do I do that? All right. I get my body weight up. I step back the way that I can. I stand up. Hand here closest to the head. Right here on the back of the neck with the V grip. Hand here closest to hip is going to go across to the far side arm. Now I'm going to pull and push his head up. And then I'm going to bring my knee here in the center of the back. So if we can circle over here, how do I get him up? This is a great position here on just waiting until we want to stand him up. But we want him to do the work for us. So I'm going to just naturally just bend one of his legs here, okay? And then I'm going to rock his head over his knee. All right, 1, 2, and then 3, really drive that partner's head over their knee until where they can stand up on their own, and then we would be ready for the transfer. So a little bit more detail from this. So we have that seated position on our opponent's hips. All right, once we've got those handcuffs on, I'm going to step backwards, okay? First I'm on my knees, then I stand all of the way up. Hand closest to the opponent's head, just a V grip right here in the back of the neck. Hand here closest to hips is going to reach across here and grab his bicep. Big detail here is I'm going to pull and then push his head up to get him in an L position. Boom. Put my knee in the back here so he doesn't fall back. Now the big details with this is not making your opponent have any type of stress. We don't want to pull on the chains here, but we don't want to cause him any injury. So we're going to make him do the work. So we're just going to make sure we bend one of those legs in, but I cut the angle. So I'm going to drive my partner's head over his knee. All right, and I'm going to tell him on the count of 3. 1, 2, on that third one, big push, head over knee. He gets to his knees, and then he completely stands all of the way up. Now, when it comes here to the common mistakes here that we see most officers make when they are learning to get into this seated position on the hips or the recovery position, all right, is knowing which way to step back, okay? So whichever leg stepped over, that's the leg that's gonna step back. A lot of officers will just stay here on their knee. We need to stand all of the way up. But I think most people get confused with the grips, all right? Hand here closest to the head, V grip here. This here, my backside hand here close to the hips is going to reach across here and grab this bicep. Now it's nothing more than a pull-push movement. Boom, knee here in the back. Now this will be the most common mistake that you will see officers make is when they bend one of the legs here, is they fail to cut the angles and they start creating more pressure on the bad guy's side. Is you start pushing him forward. He's not going to be able to get this. I need to run him over the angles. 1, 2, make sure you push the head over the knee. 3. And then they're able to stand up.